Good morning, everyone. Oh, that was so lovely. Thank you so much. I want to thank Andrea so much for that introduction, and good morning to you again, and welcome. My name is Nadia Van, and I am honored to serve as board chairperson for the Epilepsy Foundation of Michigan. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 2025 Wellness and Epilepsy Conference. Give yourselves a round of applause. As you know, there are around 3.4 million people diagnosed with epilepsy in the United States, and 1 in 26 people will receive a diagnosis of epilepsy during their lifetime. My very first encounter with an individual living with epilepsy was in the early 2000s while I was working as a special education teacher. I had the pleasure of working with an adorable young boy named Joseph. And Joseph had boundless energy, and he had the best smile, but his parents struggled to find resources to help control his epilepsy. And these struggles never dampened his spirit, but I wished that I knew back then even a fraction of what I know now to be able to help and support his family. Like so many of you joining us today, I share in our collective vision of utilizing tools, resources, and education in order to overcome the challenges of living with epilepsy. Education has always been the primary tool that we believe can change lives and outcomes for people living with epilepsy. We are honored to be able to showcase the amazing speakers we have lined up for you today and to hold this event in this very special month, our National Epilepsy Awareness Month. Now, to the good part. It is with great pleasure that I introduce this morning's speaker. We are fortunate to have her with us here today. It is USA Today bestselling author and artist, Marianne Richmond. Marianne has been crafting the language of connection for 3 decades through her books that offer messages of love, belonging, and encouragement to all ages. With more than 8 million copies sold, she writes for the unique everybody, sharing that while our stories are all different, many of our feelings are the same. Inspired by her own childhood journey with epilepsy, Marianne is passionate about helping kids of all ages feel loved and seen and encourages people to nurture their brightest and bravest selves. And with that, it is our pleasure to welcome Marianne Richmond to the stage.
I'm so glad to be here. I have to tell you though, it's really hard to find purple things. I mean, I specifically went out shopping for purple things and I came up short. So I have purple like gym socks on. I was like, all right. And I have purple eyeshadow on that you can check out later. Well, I am thrilled to be with you today. Emotionally, I'm really grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I met, okay, so how do I move my presentation forward? Okay, there we go. I brought my family with me for solidarity. There they are. I have 4 kids myself. I am grateful emotionally to be here that I met Angie May at a conference called Epicon that was in Nashville a few years ago. I'm convinced it was like 6 years ago. Renee says it was only 3 years ago. But there I was standing with my books, and this lovely woman stands in front of me, and her jaw drops, and she says, "Are you the woman who wrote those?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "I love your books." And we hugged, and now here I am standing on your stage a couple of years later. So if that doesn't show you the reverberation of kindness and serendipity, I don't know what does. But I have to tell you, I'm also grateful to be here in physical form, because as the board members and foundation members know, I have had a very interesting couple days. Since landing in Michigan on Tuesday night, there were no rental cars available at midnight from budget, even though there were 30 of us in line waiting for our rental car. So I decided I was going to be resourceful and grab a rental car through Turo, if you know what that means. Well, I got my car from Turo, there were no brakes. So that was a little issue that they had to fix for me. Then the next day, I was supposed to be at an elementary school at 8:30 a.m., an hour from my hotel, But no, Marianne set her alarm for 6 p.m. instead of 6 a.m. And so when I woke up, my body knew it was nowhere near 6 a.m. I flipped over my phone. It is 8:30. The exact time I am supposed to be speaking to the 8th graders an hour away. I call them in a panic. They're like, it's fine, take your time. Well, no. Did I take my time? No. I drove like a bat out of hell and looked in my rearview mirror, 2 cop car lights behind me. And he comes to my window and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I am on my way to read to kindergartners in your school district. Does that help?" And he said, "No, it does not help because you ran 2 red lights." I'm like, "I did?" So I set 3 alarms last night. I set one at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., and 6 a.m. So if I look tired, that's why. But I would rather be tired in here than well rested and at my hotel. So I called this presentation, "The World of Epilepsy is Waiting for You." And in my mind, it was like the world of epilepsy is waiting for you to be a difference maker in this world of epilepsy. But then I thought, no, for some of you, the world of epilepsy is waiting for you. And maybe you didn't want to be part of that world, but here it is. But I'm here to encourage you that both sides, whether the world of epilepsy is waiting for you or the world of epilepsy is waiting for you, both are full of hope and possibility. This is when the world of epilepsy became part of my story. This is me at 9. I was already feeling awkward, friends. I had those teeth that were so crooked, and my dad said, "We can't afford braces for you." So, okay, you just live with it. I actually tried to create my own retainer with a paper clip. Anybody else? Oh my gosh, yes. And I would put it in my mouth and my gums would bleed, and I was like, I don't think this is a solution. And my mom cut my bangs with pinking shears. Unless you think it was just this year, no. Every year, starting in kindergarten, which was really bad, and she got a little straighter by 4th grade. But what was with the sailor theme in my life? I mean, seriously, 1st grade, I've got the whole scarf thing on, and then 4th grade, I've now, got the little symbol, anchor symbol. But, oh, do I remember this little girl. I remember her like yesterday. She felt awkward in her body. She was embarrassed of her teeth and her bangs. She loved taking piano lessons over there with her stuffed dog. It's an interesting looking stuffed animal there. Her parents were very religious. And we were going to pray about everything, and we were going to say the rosary after dinner every night. And I liked to twirl baton, and I was a brownie, and I was ready to fly up to being a Girl Scout. But then on January 25th, 1975, my world completely changed. And I had my first, what they were calling back then, grand mal seizure. I was standing in my dad's bedroom in our little house in Greendale, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Milwaukee, and I was asking him if I could borrow his camera. I wanted to take pictures of the day. I didn't have anything else to do. And all of a sudden, I felt this weird, inexplicable pinch in my left finger, and I thought something had bit me. And I look at my finger, and it's now throbbing, and I'm watching my hand start curling into a claw. And I look at my dad, and he looks at me, and he said, "What's the matter, honey?" And I said, I don't know. My hand is numb. And the numbness proceeded to travel through my body. And I ran down the hallway to the kitchen where I collapsed on our gold linoleum floor into a full body seizure. And my mom kneeled at my side and started saying the Hail Mary. And when I came to, I didn't know which day it was, I didn't know where I was, and they rushed me to the emergency room, and the doctor told me I had a budding virus. And in that day, I became a different person. I went from the baton twirl loving little Girl Scout brownie who loved her piano, to a terrified shell of a little girl. I was afraid to be in my body. I was afraid to be in my life. I didn't want to go to school anymore. I really just wanted to disappear. And so my mother, I have to interject here, we are all born into a story, as was I. I was born into a story with a mother who had her own trauma. 10 years before I was born, she went through depression in the Air Force, and they put her through 3 weeks of electroshock therapy, which back in the 50s, there was no muscle relaxers. They just strapped you up to electricity and zapped your body with seizures, essentially, to oust the depression. And my mom emerged from that, a shell of herself. So when I came along and started having these full body seizures, it reminded her too much of her own experience. And by God, she wasn't going to let me have medical intervention because she was very anti-medical now. So she took me around to various doctors who told me, you have a conversion disorder. It's your psychological problem that is causing this physical reaction. You are stressed. Then we went to a chiropractor who told me I was out of alignment. I had a pinched nerve and shoulder, and that was causing my spasms. She took me to a homeopathist that said, you have cerebral allergies that are affecting your entire system, and drink these potions, and that will oust the allergies from your body. And meanwhile, I grew more and more and more fearful and traumatized and hid myself. I was in 4th and 5th grade, and if I would feel my hand go numb, I would run to a bathroom stall and hide to have a seizure by myself. Or I would look for an open classroom door and lock it behind me and have a seizure by myself. Because if no one was going to tell me what was wrong with me, how would I tell anybody? Other than, I have this thing that happens that's my fault, and my psychological problems are making this happen, but I don't even know what they are. All I know is that they're doing this. That is wacky. I came close to diagnosing myself in 7th grade. There was a boy named Ray Clark in my class, and Ray had epilepsy. And we all knew it because Ray's mom came to our classroom, and she told us, if you have Ray in your classroom and this happens to him, this is what you do. You move things out of the way. You get him a cushion for his head. And I remember sitting there thinking, how does Ray feel about his mom telling everybody about his problem? She said, you may notice Ron staring off into space. This will be your clue that a seizure is starting. Well, I didn't want to notice that. Well, one afternoon at 3 o'clock, I looked at Ray to my right, the clock inching toward 3 p.m., and when everyone started stuffing papers into his backpack, Ray was staring at the chalkboard. Ray, it's time to go. But Ray kept staring. Ray, I tap urgently. Uh-oh. Within minutes, Ray toppled to his left, bringing his chair and desk with him and toward me. I jump up and everything, including him, crashes to the floor, his body flopping, his papers flying everywhere. I stand in shock, my eyes unblinking, mouth open, but for a different reason than the others. I am Ray, and Ray is me. My body does exactly what his body is doing. I have epilepsy. I felt giddy. I felt giddy with the excitement of learning the secret that had eluded me for years. I ran home from school so fast, I was breathless coming into the door. Mom, I have epilepsy, and it's Jacksonian epilepsy, and it starts in one part of my body, and then it generalizes, and they call it a seizure, not a spasm. I am breathless, waiting for Mom to catch my enthusiasm. I don't think so, Marianne, she says. It's your diet. and we're working on that. My diet, and we'll keep praying for a miracle. Ray Clark is my miracle. As real as any, but Mom isn't seeing it. A gift from one awkward kid to another. It's as if Ray had picked me to have a seizure next to in a moment of solidarity. Here, I imagine him saying, I'm going to help you out. But I don't have a Mrs. Clark in my corner, and nothing changes for me, and Mom and I never mention the word epilepsy again. That's trauma. I didn't have the words for that when I was a kid. I didn't know that this was trauma. It was physical trauma and it was emotional trauma. I went back to grad school a couple years ago for a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling so I could understand how our brains and bodies hold our stories. And I learned from many wiser people than me a very simple definition of trauma that put a light bulb on for me. Trauma is overwhelming helplessness. It is overwhelming helplessness, and everything about my constant seizures was overwhelming helplessness. When the people in charge of me didn't do anything to help me or come alongside me to help me understand and own what was going on for me. Peter Levine, a very well-known psychologist, said, "It is not just the events themselves, but how they are internalized that define trauma. It resides within our internal landscape, shaped by the emotional and psychological imprints that we carry, that I still carry. I am so good at hypervigilance. I am slow to trust. I wonder if you're telling me the truth." Those are the psychological imprints from 9-year-old me. Diving into a little mental health education for a second, we all have a window of tolerance. Some people call it the river of tolerance, when our nervous system feels calm and connected. Trauma puts us out of our window, either into hyperarousal, where we are anxious and panicky and short of breath, hypervigilant, looking over our shoulder, or we go into hypoarousal, where we are numb, can't get out of bed, depressed. And for years, I fluctuated between both. I was never in that window and was looking over my shoulder for when the next spasm was going to happen. I was anxious, difficulty trusting others. I had so much shame, depression. I was tired, fight or flight, hypervigilance. This is what trauma looks like. And I don't think we realize that things like epilepsy have a very physical component and a huge mental health component that I lived, and perhaps many of you are living too. And how we mitigate that trauma is with a caring adult, a caring doctor, a loving presence, a foundation like what you're a part of today. I didn't have that. I didn't have that caring presence. I was divided from that care and belonging. 15 years later, I had a massive seizure in my dorm room at college. Actually, I think it was more like 9. And because I hadn't told anybody, my roommate, when she saw me sprawled out on the floor, was freaking out, called 911. And I was like, "No, just don't call anyone. It'll be over, I promise." I still didn't want anyone to know. I woke up from my seizure with every girl in my dorm floor looking down at me. I had bitten through my lip. I had peed through my pajamas. I wanted to sink into the floor of my college dorm floor. I was shepherded off to the hospital in front of all the college kids with their backpacks going to school, and it was the first time a doctor said to me, "You have epilepsy. Why aren't you medicated?" So yeah, it's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I got medication that day, and I was happy. I had a name, and I had help. And it was the first time, because I was now 18 years old, that I could start taking charge of myself and my story and help myself if the people who I had looked to for that help couldn't do it. I stayed on that medication for a long time. I was taking 5 pills a day of Dilantin, I think it was. No, Tegretol. It's Tegretol. I went off to college. I went to Ohio State University, kept taking my 5 pills a day. My neurologist said, be mindful in your lifestyle as I'm drinking buckets of beer on High Street. I'm like, does this count? I didn't want to be different. So I thought, well, maybe beer and Tegretol is okay. And I never had a seizure in college after that big one, my first year. And I thought, okay, all right, maybe we're finally on smooth sailing here. And then I moved to Connecticut and got my first job in New York City. And I was at Jack LaLanne doing aerobics. Jack LaLanne, anyone? Anyone? Yeah, older crowd here? Remember like cardio? Like doing the windshield wiper move? And I was doing that on 42nd Street, and I felt the pinch in my left pinky. I thought, no, not here. Not in downtown Manhattan at Jack LaLanne. This would be a bad place. I don't know anybody here. So I ran to the bathroom. I started rubbing my hand vigorously. I think I believed I could rub it out. I could rub the seizure out. And by the grace of God, it stopped. It receded. But now I was panicked because I knew there was something still very wrong. So I went on a hunt to find help. I had an MRI. I learned there was something in my brain that shouldn't be there. They couldn't tell me what. They said it could be a tumor, it could be a blood vessel, it could be scar tissue. And so there I was, a 24-year-old young girl, taking the subway around the streets of Manhattan, interviewing doctors by myself. Tell me what you would do. I went to one guy at Columbia Presbyterian, a very big, important hospital with a very big, important doctor, and he said, we will operate off the CAT scan. And I said, my thing has never showed up on a CAT scan. Well, that's all right, we're gonna make it show up. I said, I'll take my scans back, please. And then I went to Yale New Haven Hospital and I met Dr. Dennis Spencer there. And I walked into his office and he said, Marianne, if you were my daughter, this is what I would do. And for the first time, someone saw me for me, a terrified young girl in need of protection, guidance, and care. And I said, let's do it. So at the age of 24, I had brain surgery to remove what turned out to be a benign brain tumor that had been the cause of my seizures since I was 9 years old. He said, who knows why it came? Could be been there when I was born, who knows? But by age 9, it caused enough trouble up there to start my problems. Okay, take a breath, Marianne, because now I've lost my slides. Okay. There we go. Sorry for that. So during my recovery, I felt like I had learned the secret that I'd been trying to find out for 15 years. I felt affirmed. I felt like I knew for so long, and no one believed me. And so I felt light and safe. Finally, could I exist in my body? And so during my recovery, I like to say I was bored and bald. And really had about 3 months at home to recover, and I watched all the Oprah I could and watched soap operas, and I thought, all right, I need something else to do. So I went back to something I always loved to do, which was writing. It was a safe place for me. It was where my brain was doing something good. It was making up stories. And I wrote a very, very simple story called The Gift of an Angel. And it was a metaphor for how I believed God had finally put some earth angels in my life who could help me at the time I needed. And I decided I was going to self-publish this little book. And I took my writing and my very elementary drawings, yep, that's my art, to a printer, and I said, can you make this into a book? And they're like, sure. And I got 5,000 copies of that book delivered to my house, and I started selling them one by one. And my author career was born. I started receiving letters from people. Thank you for writing this. Oh, they started telling me about their babies that they had lost, and that their babies were their guardian angels. And I thought, oh my gosh, my words have a place with people. This is so rewarding to me. And so I started listening to life to see where other people needed words. And my very second book was called The Gift of a Memory. And it was inspired by a mom who lost her little boy at 2 years old. And she came to my house and she said, no one knows what to say to you when you're grieving, so they don't say anything. And I said, well, that's not okay. What do you want to hear? And she said, well, I want them to say his name, and I want them to bring up the memory of him, and I want them to help me feel hopeful that they will remember him. And so she took me to support groups for bereaved parents. And we sat in gymnasiums and quiet churches. And I listened to parents tell me what they would want to hear during their grief. And so I wrote The Gift of a Memory to be a witness to that journey. Some things seemed so usual on that remembered day. The sun arose, the birds awoke, and kids came out to play. For most of us, the hours passed much like the days before. We lost ourselves in busyness and rushed from task to chore. But it was not so for you, my friend, and forever will it be the day God said to your beloved, come home and dwell with me. May you sense your loved one's spirit on a lazy sunshine day and know the one you miss delights to watch you laugh and play. And may you hear your beloved's laughter in the misty falling rain and know the tears from heaven fall from eyes that share your pain. And may you feel your loved one's touch when mild breezes blow to caress your cheek and whisper soft, I still walk with you, you know. And there I had the bookends of life. And for 30 years, I've been filling it in for relationships and emotions of life, for bravery and parenthood and love. And in the beginning, I was writing to my own unmothered heart. I was writing words for parents that I had longed to hear growing up. And I didn't quite believe I deserved those words. These 3 books emerged as touchstones on my journey. Hooray for you, a celebration of individuality. For quite a long time, the world saved a place. Millions were born, yet none filled your space. Until the second of a minute of one special day, you took your first breath, and the world said, hooray. I love you so. I love you. How much? So much. How much is so? Way, way more than you know. I love you as bright as each sparkling star and as way out as space. I love you that far. And I read these words to my own children while my own unmothered heart said, am I that lovable too? I want to believe that, but I'm not sure I do. And finally, as I kept going through my own healing journey through therapy and friends and my husband and my family, I started to believe that I really was worthy of love and belonging. Because my story and my mother planted an ache in my heart that transferred into a narrative of I am not lovable. And so as I healed, my books they moved from aspirational to embodied. And Be Brave, Little One is my mantra, and I want it to be yours. Be brave to believe in what you can't see, what these ups and downs all meant to be. Be brave to begin to listen inside to the voice of your heart, so truthful and wise. Be brave to step up and try something new. Be brave to step out when it isn't for you. Be brave to stand up and tell what you know. Be brave to sit down and say a hello. Be brave to go out and explore. Be brave to come home. You get to decide what brave looks like to you. And maybe some days brave is just waking up, hopefully on time. And maybe some days brave is just like, I'm done. I'm going home. Well, 35 years after my journey of surgery, I have written my own story in the form of a memoir called If You Were My Daughter. in honor of that doctor, Dr. Dennis Spencer at Yale New Haven Hospital, who was the first one who saw me, whose words changed me, changed my life in so many ways. And this is a picture of me and Bea at the Epilepsy Walk in Washington this year, where I got to read to some kids and meet these wonderful women, which was just another step on the journey to me standing here today. As I was looking for reviewers for this book, part of the publishing process, I reached out to a woman named Kelly McDaniel, who is a therapist and wrote the book Mother Hunger, which really spoke to me. And she said, Marianne, we heal by being witnessed. We heal by being witnessed. And that was another huge aha moment for me, that she so succinctly put into these words what I had longed for, what Dr. Spencer had given me, and what all my books do, hopefully for you, is they are witnesses to your journey. They are witnesses to your journey, where someone says, how did you know how I felt? And I said, because we all feel that way. And I want my stories to become a part of yours. So today I would like to share with you my newest children's book called The World is Awaiting You. The World is Awaiting You. The world of epilepsy is awaiting for you. Whether it's the world that you've entered that's waiting for you with caring arms, a world that is waiting to witness your story. Or if you feel strong to be a witness for others and you're ready to use your hands and your heart and your voice and your courage to come alongside others, the world of epilepsy is waiting for you. The epilepsy world is big, as was shared. 1 in 26 people in their lifetime, the fourth most common neurological disorder. They look different for everyone, different treatments are needed. So big. What is one thing one person can do? A lot. A lot. Because Angie standing before me, years ago, one person. And now I'm here, and you're here. And the hearts keep going. And you know what the best news is? You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to borrow anything to be a difference maker. You don't need to rent it, download it. You don't even have to ask AI. Like, you are so well equipped. Sitting in your seats, you have everything you need to be a difference maker today. Today, tomorrow, next month. Your face, your hands, your voice, your need to rest, your heart, your mind, your feet, courage, love, your spirit, those are your tools. Happy day. You're here at last, the start of something new. Say a hello, get ready to go, because the world of epilepsy is waiting for you. The world is awaiting your face, your eyes, your nose, and chin. Embrace your own hue, your style, your do. Welcome the self you're in. The world is awaiting your mind to roam and wish and know. Think your own thoughts, your whys, your why nots. Choose an idea to grow. The world is awaiting your hands to wave and make and mend. Discover a need, do a good deed. What kindness will you lend? The world is awaiting your feet on an epilepsy stroll or street. Go anywhere new, widen your view. What wonder will you meet? The world is awaiting your voice. To speak and dance and sing, cast your own vote, play your own note. What message will you bring? The world is awaiting each of your stories, the ones you get to plot and pen. The world is awaiting your courage to fuel your how and when. And if things get hard, because they do, and trouble shows its face, the world is awaiting your stop and rest. Give yourself some space. The world is awaiting your heart to keep and share and tend, feel and guide and tend, offer compassion, be thoughtful in action. Who will you befriend? The world is awaiting your spirit to shine and hum and thrive. Follow your fun on your journey begun. What makes you come alive? The world is awaiting your love to keep, love yourself, to hold and share, be who you are, lead, help others go far, lead and listen with care. Now, today, is your bright beginning to feel and think and do. Make your own mark. Believe in your spark. The world of epilepsy is waiting for you. If you want to believe that one person can make a difference, I will end with a story for you. There's me after my brain surgery in 1990. Just last week, I got to present, or about 2 weeks ago, I got to present my memoir to Dr. Dennis Spencer. Yes. I had to do it by Zoom because he's in Connecticut and I was in Nashville, and his health is, he's having some challenges now, so he's actually a patient. And it was a beautiful moment. I got to read him a letter about how his words changed my life. I had pre-sent my memoir to his colleague who handed it to him as I was reading my letter over Zoom. And he wrote me back a letter. And the subject was you. And he wrote, "What an amazing moment last Wednesday. I had no warning of what was to happen, and the timing is also surreal." He talks about he'd been doing research and really missing the patient interaction. And now he's dealing with his own health issues. He has Hodgkin's lymphoma and is in chemotherapy. And he said the culmination of this is causing him to question his legacy. Imagine. And he said, "Then suddenly you reminded me of the importance of one person trying to make a difference for just one other person." Warmly, Dennis. What is one thing you can do? Let's close by reading this all together. Now is your bright beginning to think and feel and do. Make your own mark, believe in your spark, and I'm going to have you change you to me in the end. And I want to hear a really loud, "The world is awaiting me." Let's hear it. The world is awaiting me. The world of epilepsy is truly awaiting you. Thank you. Oh my God. That's so nice.